few years ago, a video trend started called One Marvelous Scene. The trend started with content creator Nando V Movies as a way to celebrate the upcoming release of Avengers Endgame. The idea is that someone would talk about one scene from a movie and why it stood out to them. It may have been their favorite scene in the MCU franchise. The trend has continued to this day, with the latest entry being released just 2 months ago at the time of me writing this. And while I would love to talk about the awkward car ride with Peter Parker and the Vulture for 10 minutes, I know that's not what you're here for. Instead, I want to take that concept and apply it to manga. I want to talk about one scene from Vinland Saga and why it solidified the series as my favorite manga. So here's my entry for One Manga Scene. I know, it's a totally original title. If any other manga content creators want to do this, then use the hashtag OneMangaScene to help me find your video, as I would love to see it. The scene I want to talk about is in chapter 191. Thorfinn's group of settlers have begun to make Vinland their home. They plant wheat, build homes, build a mill to easily process the wheat, and have become friends with the natives. Thorfinn harvests the wheat as Gudrun makes one of the first loaves of bread. Thorfinn holds the bread in his hands and tells Einar that it has been a long journey, to which Einar agrees. Then Gudrun surprises Thorfinn with some good news. She is pregnant. The group eats the bread in the field and Hildi decides that she can't do it anymore. She can't hold on to this anger towards Thorfinn any longer, so she tells him that she forgives him. Thorfinn walks over to Hildi, but words can't express his emotions, only tears. Hildi says, "You went to the ends of the earth to release me from the curse of vengeance. You fought long and hard. You are a true warrior." The scene ends with Thorfinn kneeling in front of Hildi, holding her right hand while crying. I find myself tearing up just reading the scene again for this video. There's a lot I love about this scene, so let's just start with my first reason. This scene is the culmination of Vinland Saga. This moment has been building up since the very beginning of the series. We've seen Thorfinn start out as a young, hopeful boy that was turned into a living weapon by his own determination and a lust for vengeance. After Askeladd was killed by Canute, Thorfinn becomes an empty husk. The thing he was chasing after was now gone. His sole reason for living was stripped from him. He would be plagued by the souls of those he killed to achieve his goal, and it wasn't until he met Einar that his burden would become a bit lighter. The two, now bonded as brothers, would set out to make a land where there was no slavery or wars, a place where there were no enemies. This journey would lead them to war zones that they would get pulled into, meet new friends and foes, and accomplish new feats. Their hard work paid off when they landed on the shores of Vinland and were able to build a new home, a new beginning. Not just for them, but for everyone who resides there. We are at the emotional and literal peak of the story, and Yukimura delivers a more than satisfying moment. My second reason is probably what's in the title because of a recent Deadpool meme. Why was Thorfinn crying? Seriously. Why was he crying? To me, it was the only response he could have given. We've already talked briefly about Thorfinn's history, but let's not overshadow the fact that he's killed a lot of innocent people to get to this point. We see a fraction of his kill count when the literal dead clings to him as he climbs out of hell in his sleep. This is a man carrying numerous amounts of sins on his back. So when Hildi says that she forgives Thorfinn, his load becomes a little lighter. He can't express how much that means to him, so he begins to cry. There's a quote by the author Aaron and Trotta Kelly that best sums it up. "Crying is good for the soul. It means something needs to be released. And if you don't release the something, it just weighs you down until you can hardly move." My third and final reason as to why this scene is my personal favorite is that it ends the cycle of violence. The cycle begins when Askeladd kills Thors. Thorfinn goes on his revenge quest, killing hundreds of people, including Hildi's father, and Askeladd is killed by Canute. Hildi goes on her revenge quest to kill Thorfinn, but ends up moving on. Hildi is a reflection of Thorfinn before Askeladd's death. From their physical similarities to their reasons for revenge, the characters are very alike, but they also have their differences, like the fact that Thorfinn prefers short-range combat while Hildi prefers long-range. Their main difference, however, is the fact that Hildi is able to move on when Thorfinn couldn't. Her father was murdered before her eyes, which causes her to seek revenge against Thorfinn. She's traveled far distances and killed to get to this point she's at, but after seeing everything Thorfinn does to atone, she's able to move on. Overall, this scene provides a cathartic release for the readers who have stuck with Vinland Saga up to this point, and while I could continue rambling, I think I've gotten my points across, so I'll leave you with this question. What's your favorite manga scene, not just from Vinland Saga, but out of every manga ever made? I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye!